This is the Dallas Morning News.
Eat, Drink, DFW from the Dallas Morning News is made possible by Central Market.
Hello and welcome to Eat, Drink, DFW, the podcast from the Dallas Morning News food team. Each week, we take a look at the biggest food and drink stories in North Texas, talk about restaurants in Dallas-Fort Worth, learn some new recipes, and get tips from you, our listeners. I'm Claire Baller, a food reporter at the Dallas Morning News, and today we're going to catch up on a notable restaurant closure and talk about 2 new spots you should know about. Then we're going to break down the often misunderstood difference between food journalism and food influencers. That's all coming up right after this.
Central Market is really into food, like fish flown in so fresh it still has jet lag into food. Our sourdough starter has been around since grunge was a thing into food. We're talking more prime cuts than a greatest hits album into food. Central Market is really into food. If you are too, then we're the HQ for you. Whether you're a make every recipe in the cookbook foodie or a my favorite recipe is reheat type who just digs the delectable, no place makes every day more delicious like Central Market. Really into food. Shop now at centralmarket.com.
For the latest food and restaurant news in Dallas-Fort Worth, visit dallasnews.com/food and email us at eatdrink@dallasnews.com with any tips, story ideas, or podcast thoughts. I am joined today by my colleagues Imelda Garcia, Sarah Blaskovich, and Zakaria Washington. How are you guys today?
Is it lame to say that I'm still mad about the time change?
No.
It happens twice a year. And every time I'm like, why?
And it should happen 0 times a year.
Yes.
Well, and you're from Arizona, so you've actually seen the other side, right? Did you live in the part where there was no time change?
Yeah.
Whoa.
No time change. And I still don't understand it.
I was thinking of you, Claire, because I don't have little bitty kids anymore, but it's the worst when you have littles like you do.
Yes.
Ugh, I'm sorry.
It usually takes us probably close to 2 weeks to fully get back on track for 1 hour change, which
Goodness.
is just ridiculous.
Well, and I'm personally also not an infant anymore, and yet I'm just as fussy about it.
And I hate this time change, but I love the one in November.
Where you get an extra hour of
yes.
sleep.
I don't know. I love this one because I like it that it gets darker later.
It's true.
Oh, so you're here for the evening part.
Oh, yes.
Even if the mornings hurt.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
You are brave.
Okay, we've got some news to discuss. I want to start with a closure. Imelda, you wrote about a pizza spot in Denton that was around for a long time, and now it's not. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, let's talk about Crooked Crust. This was a beloved pizza place for the UNT community, and it was so close to the UNT campus that you can say it belonged to the campus. So they closed on February 27, and I can tell you the community was really sad. I talked with some students at the UNT, and they were amazed by this closing. The thing was, the workers said that they didn't get any notice about this closing. So they found out because some repairmen went to take measures for the new place.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it was really unfortunate. But the thing is, this place was open for almost 14 years, and now it's going to be a shawarma place.
Imelda, I'm not familiar with this restaurant, but I'm sad to see it go because as a college student, pizza was something that I could afford and really, really liked. You know, without knowing all the details, I just feel like a pizza place near campus makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of students told me that the best thing there was the $10 lunch. So it was cheap and very filling. So yeah, they are going to miss this place.
All right, switching gears, there's a new bakery in town called the Bread Club, and you just wrote about it, Sarah. Like just wrote about it.
Yes. So I've been to the Bread Club several times since it opened a little more than a week ago. And this place is all over my Instagram feed. So the Bread Club is owned by the 2 Dallas brothers who own Mominy. We know Mominy as the French restaurant that earned 1 Michelin star in 2025. It was the only new restaurant to get a new Michelin star last year. And for that reason alone, Mominy was easily the most talked about restaurant in Dallas last fall. These owners have been planning on opening a bakery for quite some time. It is next door to Mominy. So if you're in uptown Dallas, just west of McKinney Avenue, you park your car once and you can go to one or the other. And the Bread Club looks like and is just a super beautiful pastry shop, right? You can get chocolate croissants in the shape of a sideways capital B for Bread Club as one example, right? You can get pistachio pan suisse. You can get Queen Amman. You can get a beautiful cookie. And you should. But I think the secret of the Bread Club is what they do back in the kitchen that they don't really talk about out front. So I spent some time with the baking director. His name is Peter Edris, and he moved here from New York City. Fun fact, he hasn't had a driver's license since 2010
Wow.
because he lived in New York City and didn't need a car. He moved to Dallas, still doesn't have a car, still doesn't have a license, and walks to work in uptown Dallas. But like kind of looked around and realized maybe he needs a car. Yeah. But Peter is this calm yet forceful pastry chef who thinks a lot about how to make these beautiful pastries. The thing he's really obsessed with is bread. And so they mill their own flour for many of the breads they make. And he doesn't like to mix flours. He likes, to make a baguette with one kind of flour. He has a sprouted quinoa bread, a country loaf, couple kinds of focaccia. This is a place that is totally obsessed with bread. And the baker makes the point that Dallas and Texas don't seem to be places that are obsessed with bread. So I think he sees an opportunity here to really create something different. Now, what I want everybody who goes to the Bread Club to know is that if you don't want to be geeky about any of this stuff, you don't have to. She just looks pretty from the front, right? But if you want to buy bread to make sandwiches for at home, or if you want to buy bread and serve it with the pasta you're making at home, they think that this might be some of the best bread in town.
Certainly when they set out to open the Bread Club, they did not think that they were going to have a Michelin star in hand for Mominy. So Sarah, I'm curious, reporting on this, were you able to pick up on if there seems to be an added layer of pressure now that they have that Michelin star in hand?
Such a good question. And yes, absolutely. There is tons of added pressure. And the bread basket that is served at Mominy, it comes with 3 different kinds of bread, and those breads rotate a little bit, I think. All 3 of those breads are made inside this bakery next door. And all of them are taking this bakery extremely seriously. It seems to me like they would have taken it seriously with or without a Michelin star, because the baking director, Peter, is just a serious person. But yeah, opening a Michelin starred restaurant and then doing anything after that puts a huge spotlight on you. And more importantly, for the guys who opened Mominy, it is 2 Dallas brothers who are SMU grads who are relatively young. They hired a relatively young chef who was from France, who moved to Vegas to work for Joël Robuchon. We've talked about Christophe Delillis for a long time. He and those 2 brothers are collectively some of the youngest, most impressive restaurateurs in the state. And so I think they looked far and wide for a really good baker. And I'm just really interested to see, how the Bread Club evolves, because it is towing this line between like flashy influencer place and also, though, a place where if you really care about food, he can tell you that that grain in that bread came from this state, and he can name the city.
You said something really interesting. Dallas is not a bread city. That's interesting. Is it the weather? Is it the tortilla? We have a little more tortillas. What is happening?
Oh, I love that tortilla point, because that's a good one, right? Like, I'll eat a lot of things in a tortilla. Why isn't Dallas a bread town? I would love to see what the rest of y'all think, but I do agree with this baker who said in no uncertain terms and in a direct quote, "We do not have a bread culture here," which, like, as a person born and bred here, I was sort of like, ooh, yikes.
Yeah.
But also, is he wrong? Probably not. We do have some good bakeries, in my opinion, a select few that make most of the bread for most of the good restaurants in town. That wouldn't account for a full bread culture, probably. And then the other piece of this is we've seen a lot of very cool coffee shops and bakeries open recently and make their own croissants, or, and they're serving, trendy matcha drinks and that kind of thing. The Bread Club wants to feel different than all of those, and time will tell if it can establish itself as such. Claire, I think you should try this place. I know you love bread, and I would love to hear what you think about it after you go.
I'm eager to get there. I do love bread, and I'm very glad that I am associated with bread to you.
You are.
And hopefully to others. I would agree, Sarah. I think that Dallas is different than other cities in that we do have good bread here, but I think that there are a smaller number of people who are making it, and therefore it has perhaps become a bit redundant. And so I don't think we have as many people taking this kind of approach as what the Bread Club is doing. And so I'm very eager to see what their perspective is, and we'll be curious if it kind of spurs other people to take a similar approach. So while we're talking about new openings, I think we need to spend a few minutes talking about Shy Boy, which I have seen all over social media since it opened. What is this place? Who can tell me what this place is? Sarah, I think you also just wrote about this one, so you seem like the go-to person here.
I did, but I want to lob it to Zakaria first, because we have both been to Shy Boy, which is a basement bar in downtown Dallas that has a very, very specific and special sound system. Zakaria went before I did. So Zakaria, what is Shy Boy?
Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. I went for a preview the night before it opened. It was beautiful. Like, they had these different art installations. The music was so interesting. This was my first time at a hi-fi listening bar. And I think, Sarah, I would like for you to explain to our listeners what that is.
Sure. So hi-fi stands for high fidelity. What it does not stand for is one of my favorite movies from way back when, High Fidelity. If anybody listening knows High Fidelity, it's such a good movie. So the bar was inspired by jazz kisas in Japan. And the guy who put this place together, Shy Boy, he is super interesting. And he traveled the country buying vinyl from collectors. And some of these vinyl are like impossible to get or very expensive. And I think he was given a huge runway to spend on vinyl that they really cared about as a company. And what he told me before Shy Boy opened is that this is a listening room where you can go and hear all kinds of music, whether you are familiar with it or not. And I think that's the point, is that you don't have to go for the Brazilian bossa nova that's being played that night, or even that song before they move to something else. It is more about opening your senses to listening and having fun in a room that caters to an already artistic crowd. But the music is all over the map. There's some obscure Japanese jazz vinyl that will be played. Ooh. The guy who put it together is into Detroit techno. When I was there on Saturday night, I heard a DJ play part of Billie Jean by Michael Jackson and then mix it into like house music. So if it sounds like this place is everything, it kind of is. And when I was there on Saturday night, you guys, there was a line of possibly 200 people.
Wow.
Whoa.
It was funny. I was at dinner someplace else and then we pulled up and my husband was like, that's not the line where we're going, is it? And I was like, yes, it is. So word got out real fast that people wanted to go to Shy Boy.
I want to know about the drinks.
Ooh,
what can you drink there?
I had the lychee sour. Oh, so good. It has vodka in it, lychee, lemon, and egg white. The egg white is yeah, but it's optional. But also the egg white made it, in my opinion, a little sweeter, and it was like a more foamier, but it was so good. I had like 2.
The guy who created Shy Boy wants to be known for the highballs. This is generally a Japanese mixed drink that comes out of a spigot, like a batched cocktail, and they all cost $13. And the reason why he wants to be known for them, in addition to the fact that he likes them, is that they're fast to make. Mm-hmm. So in a basement bar where people are coming down to listen to music and to dance, you don't want people standing in line for 30 minutes to get a cocktail. And so I tried one of these highballs thinking like, this is what I'm supposed to have. And I got the tamarind, which was like caramel color, like not like most beverages are. And they serve all the drinks in these skinny rocks glasses, almost like you're holding like a skinny White Claw. And something about that made me feel elegant. But the tamarind had rye, tamarind, ginger, Kiromitsu, and soda. And it was syrupy almost, like not light, like your typical vodka soda is, but like a drink with so much character.
Another thing, when I was there for the preview, they had this soft serve. It was 2 flavors. They had a matcha ice cream and they had a vanilla and honey one. I had the vanilla and honey one, and y'all, that was like the best ice cream I've had in a minute. And so if you're there also and you're in the mood for some dessert, try their soft serve. It was really, really good.
How do you know on any given night what kind of music is being played? Like, do you just show up and it might be bossa or it might be house, or how does that work?
I sort of know the answer to your question, Claire. I think the first answer is that time will tell, but they want to have pretty eclectic music on the whole that you will just go and experience regardless of what it is. Now, as I understand it, Shy Boy will also have listening sessions with specific DJs or musicians even. And so this person is in town and from 8 to 9 p.m. on Thursday, so-and-so is going to spin his or her vinyl. And so then you get what you get from that person. Or you go knowing or not knowing the name of the DJ, you just go to experience whatever they're serving for you. One of the best places to sit in this bar is inside the bank vault.
Yes.
So this basement bar is an old bank, and there was an actual vault. And somebody told me that the door to the vault is just like you see in the movies. It is taller than a single person, circular and open.
I'm not claustrophobic, but I am feeling claustrophobic as you are describing this.
Okay, then I have good news, because I also went into the bank vault and turned to look over my shoulder, kind of like, does somebody close that?
Yeah.
I hope not. And someone working there told me that it's too heavy to close and that the hinges broke.
Okay.
And it's too heavy to remove. So they would need 2 cranes to get however many tons this door is
Wow.
out of the basement. And the other thing about being in a basement is there's like a whole tower above it. So like, how do you even get a crane in there to get it out? And so they decided to leave it, which was a beautiful artistic choice because it's cool looking. But you can be sure, Claire, that no one is going to close it behind you.
Good.
You know, I'm watching this show Paradise on TV. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's an end of the world show, and the 2nd season just came out. And part of the first episode of the 2nd season, there's like people in a bunker, you know, people sort of like closing themselves off to the world and trying to live in one small space by themselves. And I had that little bitty feeling in Shy Boy that like, if the end of the world were to come, there's not enough food here, but there is enough alcohol and there's good music
I feel like that's all you need.
and like a can of beans.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're talking food journalists versus food influencers.
Central Market is really into food. Like when we say cheese, it's in 12 languages into food. Butchers, bakers, and sushi roll makers into food. We're talking so obsessive about quality you can shop blindfolded into food. Central Market is really into food. If you are too, then let us turn your shopping list into a treasure map. Get inspired, get adventurous, or just get a chef-made dinner when you've got more taste buds than time. No place makes every meal more amazing like Central Market. Really into food. Shop now at centralmarket.com.
Welcome back. Before we dive in, I want to say a quick thanks for being a listener. If you have the time to rate this podcast and leave us a review, we'd really appreciate it. So there's something we talk a lot about in our day-to-day work, but I don't think we've ever really gotten into it on the podcast. And that is the difference between food journalism and food influencers. And increasingly, I think that what we do for our profession is blurred in audiences' eyes with food content creation and the influencing space. I am curious to hear from you guys and for you guys to explain to listeners how you communicate to people what you do for a living and how it is different than what everybody's social media feeds, I think, are flooded with these days.
Okay, this is really controversial because a lot of times when I'm working, a lot of people in restaurants don't know the difference. And they are trying to give you things or paying you or asking you how much you charge for that story. And that is not happening here. And I have 5 differences between food influencers and journalists. The first one is food influencers are more for engagement and growing their audience. And we are for journalism. We are to inform the people, the community. They are for entertaining, for marketing, and we are reporting. We are analyzing the cultural relevance. They are full of opinions. And I will say all the time, it's personal opinions. And we are not. We are guided by our editorial guidelines, and we do fact-checking, and we see context. They monetize things. They have sponsored content. We don't monetize. We don't receive anything. It's an ethical issue for us. And they are more for a visual appeal, you know, a lot of videos, a lot of photos. We are too, but we also do investigations. We talk about different issues, labor, immigration. So it's a different approach.
Imelda, I think that was incredibly well put. And I think people would be surprised by how often we have that experience that you said at the beginning, which is that we show up at restaurants and there is this assumption that there will be an exchange, that us being there means we are expecting to receive something, which is not the case. When we show up at a restaurant to talk to a chef or owner, it is because we see news value in that story. It is because we believe that there is something that the public should or wants to know about. And that's why we're there.
One way to think about influencers versus journalism is one specific story that we just talked about, the Bread Club. At the Bread Club, I went 2 times, once just to eat and buy the food that I ate, and a second time for an interview, which involved going back into the kitchen. We took photos and video. I stayed for almost 2 hours and got really specific about the kinds of wheat the baker was buying. I took probably 12 pages of notes and, you know, made sure to spell everybody's name correctly, all this stuff. And that's my job as a journalist. And that's kind of one of the ways I do it. in the couple of days I took to synthesize that information and publish a story on Monday of this week, many of the influencers in town had already been there and published a 47-second clip of what it's like in there. And so what you'll see online is true as well. You'll see a beautiful place where you would have a great time probably going for coffee with girlfriends or having lunch with a business colleague. What you won't see on almost any of those videos is the story of the baker, who is a really impressive guy who comes from New York City. You probably won't hear about the grain being milled back in the back and how you even make any of these pastries. That's something that we did and offered extra context. There's not a right way to do either one of those. And in fact, I think the most successful food journalists and the most successful Instagram influencers do their version of it very well. So I see our role as being fast, right? I still have to tell you about the Bread Club as quickly as possible, but I'd like to think that I can dive a little bit deeper into what this place means, not only in what they're specifically doing, but then how that fits into the culture or the lack of bread culture in Dallas. That takes a lot of time and effort, but that's the fun of food journalism, really, is like getting into the nooks and crannies of who the people are and why and what and where. That's what I like about food journalism, and that's what I think sets us apart.
Sarah, you've been doing this for a long time now, and undoubtedly it's very different now than it was when you started writing about food.
Yeah.
How has it changed the way that you do your job now that the food space is so dominated by food influencers?
The biggest change is me holding my ground that we don't accept free food. Everywhere I go, they say, don't worry about it. And everywhere I go, I say, no, we have to pay for this. And most of the chefs who have been around for a while understand that, and they happily bring the check. Some don't and get their feelings hurt. You know, I thought you said you were going to write about my business. And also, if I make you pay, are you going to say something mean now? Nobody ever used to ask me that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And the answer to those questions are, me paying for this meal has nothing to do with anything other than it puts us on an equal playing field. It doesn't mean I'm going to say mean things or nice things. That's actually not the job right now, right? The job is reporting on what this place is and where it is. But the money thing is the biggest one.
Yeah.
It has also earned us a lot of admirers, I would say. When I talk to women's groups, which I do kind of a lot, I make sure to say early in the talk that everything that you read in the newspaper is about restaurants that we just believe are simply newsworthy. Nobody said, I gave you a burger, you gave me a news story. It doesn't work that way. That seems so simple, and I see all you guys nodding, but out in the wild, that is still surprising. And so I'm proud to be part of a company that upholds this ethical standard, and we are fewer and farther between than ever.
Zakaria, you are in a really unique role in that you are a food digital producer. So you are creating food social media content. And I know that you're still early in this of kind of hammering out this role, but how would you describe what you do and how it is different than what food influencers do?
As digital producer, I do create a lot of video and social media content. And a lot of times I am going head to head with food influencers, but I also have the opportunity to still report and write stories and use my understanding of social media trends. I think my role differs from an influencer simply because it still is journalism. Kind of like what Imelda was saying, food influencers oftentimes are creating content to build and promote their personal brand or themselves. But as a digital producer for a newsroom, my goal is to inform the public about the local food scene. And I think as journalists, we're just held to a different standard of ethics. We have to be accurate, we have to be transparent, and we have to be fair. I'm not just reacting as a digital producer, I'm documenting and covering a beat. So I don't use my content to promote businesses, but to highlight trends, introduce new restaurants, document openings and closures, and to give context to the local industry.
I'm a big believer that there's room for all of it. And I think you guys are like-minded in that yes. Restaurants only stand to benefit, and therefore the industry only stands to benefit when there are as many people paying attention to restaurants as possible, right? And influencers have a huge role in that. I think my concern/hope is around the understanding of this difference for audiences to be able to see when they see someone telling them about a new restaurant to say, why? Why is this person telling me this? And what's in it for them? and kind of understanding where that information is coming from.
I'm also asking why a lot when we see on Instagram, for instance, like a look at a restaurant that's not new and is, some sort of, use a buzzword here, hidden gem, neighborhood favorite, whatever it is, right? I'm also curious why a restaurant that isn't making news is making it on Instagram. And my suggestion is not that it shouldn't, because restaurants that have been around 7.5 years and aren't doing something particularly new, but are just still great, what are they to do if they don't have a reason to be back in the conversation? And so I understand that difficulty of a restaurant. But what I'll say is that if us at the newspaper write about that restaurant, there is always a reason. It isn't just because after 7.5 years, we've decided like, gosh, that pasta dish is really good. There's more to it, right? Maybe they've changed the dish, or maybe the chef has an interesting story about it. Maybe that restaurant is struggling and there's a reason to learn more about that restaurant so that you know that you might have to get that pasta dish in the next month or never again. So the why is real interesting to me. It's easy to cover the shiny new places, as we do as well. Those are easy to find, and everybody's talking about them. It's kind of the other stuff related to food that I stop and go, what made them go there? Did someone pay just for you to say, hey, remember this place that we might have forgotten? Or is it just earnestly a great place that person wants more people to know about?
And I think another big difference is that we are dot connectors. We work for an organization that's been doing this for 100+ years. And granted, our food coverage looks a little different now than it did when we started out. But, I think we have this incredible body of historical context, some of which far predates us, but, a lot of which we have worked hard to gather so that we understand and can help readers understand why a chef doing something or moving to a different place or whatnot is important or interesting.
I think the public sees food influencers as the new critics, but they have to be aware that there is money involved, and that changes everything, because if some of them tell you this is a good restaurant, maybe they got paid for that. So you have to be really careful with that. And that is something that food journalists don't do, and you can trust us.
That is all the time we have for today. Visit dallasnews.com/food for all the latest food news in DFW, and email us at eatdrink@dallasnews.com. We love to hear from you. Special thanks to our producer, Julie Fisk. For the news, I'm Claire Baller. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Eat, Drink, DFW from the Dallas Morning News is made possible by Central Market.